The factory system was a major change for European workers. Factory work became less skilled. Factory conditions were dirty, dangerous, and unhealthy. Workers worked long hours, 12 to 16 hours a day. Factory workers were not well paid. Women and children were paid less than men. Owners required workers clock in and limited their breaks to increase production. Conditions in the coal mines. The invention of the steam engine increased demand for coal. Coal production grew from 5 million tons in 1750 to 23 million tons in 1830. Men, women, and children were used in mines. Mines were unhealthy and dangerous. Lung disease, poison gas, drowning, explosions, cave-ins were all common for workers. An early coal mine at work in England. Child laborer. The day of a child laborer, William Cooper. William Cooper began working in a textile factory at the age of 10. He had a sister who worked upstairs in the same factory. In 1832, Cooper was called to testify before a parliamentary committee about the conditions among child laborers in the textile industry. The following sketch of his day is based upon his testimony. 5 a.m. The workday began. Cooper and his sister rose as early as 4 or 4:30 in order to get to the factory by 5. Children usually ate their breakfast on the run. 12 noon. The children were given a 40-minute break for lunch. This was the only break they received all day. 3 p.m. The children often became drowsy during the afternoon or evening hours. In order to keep them awake, adult overseers sometimes whipped the children. 6 p.m. There was no break allowed for an evening meal. Children again ate on the run. 9 p.m. William Cooper's day ended after an exhausting 16-hour shift at work. 11 p.m. Cooper's sister worked another 2 hours, even though she had to be back at work at 5 o'clock the next morning. The Industrial Revolution changed the lives of many children. Rather than working for their parents on family farms, many children in the cities worked in factories, brickyards, or mines. Living in cities was expensive, so poor families needed their kids to work. Child workers earned 10% of an adult wage, worked long hours in dangerous conditions, and were often beaten. The changing role of women. The Industrial Revolution changed the lives of many women. Rather than working with their husbands on family farms and taking care of children, poor women in cities worked in factories. Some women worked as domestic servants. Factory jobs for women required long hours away from their children and could leave women crippled, sick, or deformed. Women were paid half or 1/3 of a man's salary. Urbanization. Urbanization increased dramatically. The increase in population and enclosure of farms forced people to move to cities. Poor families lived in poorly constructed apartments built by factory owners called tenements in neighborhoods called slums. Many families shared cramped apartments that lacked running water or sanitation. Hard factory jobs and disease led to short life expectancies for urban workers. Changing class structure. During the Industrial Revolution, the social class system changed as ownership of land stopped being the most important factor. At the top were the industrial capitalists who gained wealth by owning factories. The middle class grew because of growth of engineers, managers, and shopkeepers. The bottom class grew because of the size of the urban poor who worked for low wages in factories. Pyramid of capitalist system. How did people respond to the changes and abuses of the Industrial Revolution? Some demanded reforms to fix problems caused by the Industrial Revolution. In the mid-1800s, Britain and the U.S. passed child and women labor laws that limited hours and type of work they could perform. Reformers regulated water, food, sewage, often public education, regulated living and working conditions. Workers joined unions and demand better pay, fewer hours, safer work conditions. When union demands were not met, workers went on strike. The economy of the Industrial Revolution was based on capitalism. As Adam Smith explained, businesses operated in a free market economy based on competition, profits, supply, and demand. Governments applied laissez-faire principles and avoided heavy taxes, regulations, or interference in business. Some believed that was the reason for the growing gap between the rich and the poor. So they rejected capitalism in favor of socialism. Socialists argued that the government should plan the economy by controlling factories, farms, railroads, mines, and important industries. This would create equality and end poverty by redistributing wealth from rich capitalists to the poor workers. Capitalism versus socialism. Karl Marx introduced a radical form of socialism called communism. Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto, which predicted a war between the haves and the have-nots. Marx encouraged workers to overthrow owners, seize control of factories, distribute goods evenly, and create economic equality for all people.